Okay, today we're going to be working on a Dingo TX420. Did a seal replacement, bearing replacement on that Parker hydraulic motor. Had to go through a number of steps to get that motor out. So the first thing I had to do is on the back side over here, you can suck in this front wheel by tightening the half, I think it's a half-inch drive in there. It goes in the reverse direction, and it pulls the wheel all the way back in so you can get the track off. And once you get the track off, I was able to take these 4 bolts out here and remove the hoses on the inside plus the nipples that are on the motor, and pull that guy out. This is the squirrel cage that was on the motor originally. So the motor and the squirrel cage came off together, and then later on I separated them. So let me go to the back part of the Dingo. Let's see here. On the back part, let me zoom in here a little bit. You can see the motor is back there without any nipples on there or hoses, and then this is the neighboring motor, which I just took off the hoses to try to get a little more clearance, but probably wasn't required. Also, you'll see this unit down here. It's the brake that was connected up to these bolts, these 2 bolt holes right there. So by taking those 2 bolts out, you can pull down the brake off of the top of the motor and get a lot of clearance on that motor, because some of the challenges, let me see if I can point to it. Back over here, there's 2 plates that have to come off of the back of that motor, and when you take the 4 bolts off the front here, then those plates that are on the back side over here will come apart. So there's 2 pieces, one on the right side and one on the left side, and they're a little tricky to get out of there. Also, that we notice, if you notice, the ports on the motor are facing towards the back. Before you take the motor out, you have to spin the motor 90 degrees, so these portholes are sticking straight up in the air. And then once the bolts are out, you turn this motor by 90 degrees, you can then pull that whole motor out, and it comes right out of the bottom unit. But before I could get in this compartment, I basically had to take off this bottom plate here, a couple bolts on the right and left side, and on the bottom, this is the very bottom, there's 1 bolt down there that I had to remove. And then this right here is a battery cover that was, I think, sitting on top of this point here. So I took the battery out as well, and then there was a side plate for where the gas tank is. So a number of plates came off so I could get down here. When you're getting in there, you'd want to disconnect your battery. Take the negative off first. As you can see, this right here is your positive lead, so you want to take the negative off first, and then you can take the positive off. While you're taking that out of there, this is what the gas tank looks like. So I took the wires off the gas tank. Red's in the middle, and then the other color is on the outside here, and then this is the gas line. So once you take that off, you can scoot out the gas tank. It just comes right out the back of that area. Another thing that I had to do is these counterweights that were in the back here. I think they were bolted on back here. I took some large bolts, so I used that to hold up back end of the machine, and then I use the other one to push down on the front hydraulics to lift up the track, and so that way the track would be totally floating in the air. Those are kind of handy to use in the job. So right now I've got my gas tank, I've got my squirrel cage, and coming back to the motor side, once you put your motor back in there, it's going to be tricky to get these plates in there. Another thing that I should say is around this area of the motor, there's like a little valley that goes in the motor, so these black plates can slide in and hug the motor at that spot. If you pull the motor out, the little valley pops outside here, and those black plates then have difficulty with being uninstalled. So when you want to play around with the plates, the motor has to be all the way back and in the unit, and then you can put those plates in a lot easier to get them in and out. Another thing that I did is when I took the bolts out and I was trying to get those little plates on the back out of the picture, I pulled the motor out ever so slightly, or you can stick a screwdriver in there and kind of push those plates backwards and try to pry them away from snugging the motor. And you can do that on both the top or right and left side, and hopefully you can push those two plates back in enough where they'll free up where you can yank that motor out. So that's a little trick that you can use. And then when you're putting the bolts back in, you got to make sure that the bolt is lined up with the holes on the plate. And I think the easiest thing that I did is I just got in here with one hand on the inside, you know, trying to hold that plate, on the other side turning the bolt, one of these bolts in on the plate, and just trying to start the threads. And it took a little while to find that, but today I got that in pretty quickly. Yesterday was kind of a nightmare. So that's what's going on there. So the rest of the thing that I'm doing is I'm going to put this this brake piece back up in the air and put it into the slot here, which is right there, and then I'll bolt that back on. But that's this piece right here, it goes above the motor up here, so when you get that in there, there's hardly any room to really get your hands back there, so it's convenient to get that out of the way if you can. I also clipped off the fuel line so fuel wouldn't be spilling all over. So that's what's going on with that repair. And I think I'm just going to put everything back together now. But that's a good summary of trying to replace a new hydraulic motor, or a working one, back into the unit. Overall, it was pretty challenging job, but you know, watching a few videos here and there sure does help quite a bit with understanding what you need to do. So hopefully you find this helpful. Here's some nice tools to have when you're doing the work on the Dingo. It's a 1 1/8 wrench. That's good for getting onto the hoses and loosening them up. And then to get the nipple off of the motor, it's 1 1/16, and it's probably required to get the deep socket on that. And I got my Harbor Freight impact gun, which makes the job that much easier. This is kind of what the inside looks like now that I've got the hoses on. So hoses are all back in there, tightened up nicely. I did put tie wraps on the hoses that are on the bottom, so I could not get those mixed up. So I got a tie wrap on the right bottom hose and a tie wrap on the left bottom hose. And I'm going to be putting in the gas tank back in there. Also, when you pull out the gas tank, there's going to be a bunch of crud and dirt and stuff. So that's going to be a little 15-20 minute cleanup to get everything looking nice again. All right, we got the gas tank back in. You can see that the wires are hooked up like so. Hooked up the fuel line. I put this plate on the side just to kind of hold the gas tank in there. And of course I got to put the this heavy back plate on there, things of that nature. Anyway, the process will continue. Next steps.